안녕하세요. Hi, this is Lina. Today we learn how to use Korean honorifics. Many people feel that Korean honorifics are complicated and difficult, so I will summarize only the essential and make it easy. Korean honorifics are used differently depending on age, status, and degree of closeness. We usually use honorifics when talking to people who are older than me or when you meet someone for the first time. However, even if the person is older than me, if they are very close to me or are my parents, I can use informal language with them. The way to use Korean honorifics is by attaching an honorific ending to a predicate or changing the word itself. Depending on who needs to be honored, it can be divided into three categories. When the subject is someone who we have to show respect, we attach the honorific suffix 시, 시, the stem of the verb or adjective. 어제 할아버지가 서울에 오셨습니다. 오셨습니다 is a combination of adding the honorific ending 시 to the stem O of 오다 and connecting the ending 엇, indicating the past with the final ending 다. In particular, expressing the subject 이가 needs to become 깨서, 은는 becomes 깨서는, and 에게 한테 becomes 깨. However, 깨서 is used for formal situations or to people who are to be treated with deference, but in everyday conversation, 깨서 is rarely used, and only 시, 시 is attached to a verb or adjective. 시, 시 is also attached to any part of the person's body or to an object they have. 선생님, 셔츠가 잘 어울리십니다. 우리 사장님은 마음이 아주 넓으십니다. You can say it like this. However, there is some vocabulary you need to be careful with. There are two honorific expressions for 있다, 있으시다 versus 계시다. When the subject is the property of the person to be respected or another person related to that person, we have to use 있으시다. And when the subject is the person to be respected, we have to use 계시다. 선생님은 지금 교실에 계십니다. 선생님은 자동차가 있으십니다. This is indicated by attaching several final endings to the stem of the predicate. 니다, 니까, 십시오, 시다. As casual expressions, 어요 can be used in common. Let me show you some examples. 책을 읽습니다. 책을 읽어요. 무엇을 합니까? 무엇을 해요? The contracted form of 무엇을 해요 is 뭐 해요? 뭐 해요 is more often used in spoken. 이쪽으로 오십시오. 이쪽으로 오세요. 같이 갑시다. 같이 가요. However, the formal request form 시다 is used when making a request or recommendation to several people in an official setting and cannot be used when speaking to individual superiors. Instead, you can use 시지요, 시겠습니까? For example, 여러분, 우리 모두 회사의 발전을 위해 노력합시다. 사장님, 회의하러 가시죠. 사장님, 회의하러 가시겠습니까? 니 as a question form and 어라 as an imperative form cannot be used with older people, no matter how close you are with. For example, to 언니 or 오빠, to sister or brother, you cannot say 뭐하니 or 받아라. If a person asking a question is someone who has to be respected, we have to say 네 as a positive answer and 아니요 as a negative answer. 오늘 친구를 만났어요? 아니요, 못 만났어요. 그럼 내일 만날 거예요? 네, 내일 만날 거예요. These are the words that humbles oneself. 나 becomes 저, 우리 becomes 저희. In Korea, when calling someone with respect, we don't say the name. We usually call them by title or status. We say 이나 씨, 선생님, 사장님. 당신 is literally translated as you, but this has to be used very carefully in Korea because it's used in two different situations. One is the title that couples call each other. The other thing is an impolite title used to call the other person in a fight situation. These are words that respect the subject. 계시다, 드시다, 주무시다, 말씀하시다. These are words that humble oneself or respect the object. 드리다, 뵙다, 여쭙다. 할머니께 선물을 드렸다. 내일 뵙고 말씀드리겠습니다. 사장님께 한 가지 여쭙겠습니다. 성함, 연세, 생신. 성함이 어떻게 되십니까? 연세를 여쭤봐도 될까요? 선생님, 생신이 언제예요? When you ask another person about their information, such as a phone number or age, we use 어떻게 되십니까? Instead of the direct 무엇입니까? 전화번호가 어떻게 되십니까? 연세가 어떻게 되십니까? 말씀 is used in two cases. One is to respect what someone else says. The other thing is to express what I say humbly. 선생님께서 말씀하셨습니다. 제가 말씀드릴게요. 부인 is an honorific term for 아내, but it can only be used when talking about someone else's wife, not your own. 부인께서는 무슨 일을 하십니까? 제 아내는 교사입니다. Thank you for watching. See you next time.